Barry Tompkins and Tim McCarver review the week's runs, hits, and errors on the baseball diamond when HBO Sports presents Race for the Pennant, next.
Non-stop weekends begin in September on HBO.
HBO Sports presents Race for the Pennant. Hello, everybody. I'm Barry Tompkins, along with Tim McCarver. The show, of course, is Race for the Pennant. And, Timmy, another one of those unusual kinds of weeks in baseball that are becoming more usual. News made off the field more than on, and made this week more by the managers than it was by the players. Yeah, you're referring, Barry, of course, to Dick Howser becoming manager of the Kansas City Royals after Jimmy Fry got the axe. Unusually, Jimmy Fry last year beat Dick Howser's New York Yankees in the American League Championship Series 3 games in a row. It's reminiscent of the '64 Cardinals and Yankees when Johnny Keane, as manager of the Cardinals, became manager of the Yankees when Yogi Berra got the axe. It's a strange, strange business. Here in New York, Gene Michael took his case to the public. He went to the press and said, "I think my job's in jeopardy," and that's very uncharacteristic for him. It's uncharacteristic for any Yankee manager who hopes to keep his job. Billy Martin, of course, 2 or 3 years ago found that out. You don't rip the boss. Gene Michael did that. So far, the Yankees have been playing good ball since then. It may have been a thing that relaxed him and his ball players. In Philadelphia, Dallas Green continues to be Dallas Green. Speaking of honesty, Dallas Green was very honest when he knocked the cap off of second base umpire Steve Fields' head. He was suspended 5 days, and of course the Phillies lost 5 games in a row while he was out. And an unfortunate situation in St. Louis, Gary Templeton, all kinds of problems there, and nonetheless it didn't seem to hinder the way the Cardinals have been playing baseball. Whitey Herzog has his team right where they left off in the first half. Last Wednesday in St. Louis, a long-standing problem came to a head when Gary Templeton failed to run out a dropped third strike. The Cardinal fans jeered, and Templeton responded with some ungentlemanly behavior. Field boss and general manager Whitey Herzog fined Templeton and suspended him indefinitely. Despite the turmoil around them, the Cardinals kept right on winning, maintaining their hold on first place in the National League East. Playing aggressively in every phase of the game, the Cardinals were fitting Herzog's blueprint to a T. And on Thursday, the high-riding Cardinals started a series against the Padres, a team in the midst of a 4-game losing streak. The Cardinals won the opener, and on Saturday, Ken Oberkfell went 3 for 4 and hit his first homer of the year as the Cardinals jumped to an early lead in the first game of a doubleheader. On the mound, Padre alumnus Bob Shirley worked in relief of another Herzog acquisition, Larry Sorensen. Shirley picked up his first save, and the Cardinals went on to sweep the doubleheader. North of the border in Montreal, les Expos were on a roll of their own as they swept a 3-game series from Cincinnati by a combined score of 27-1. The last 2 games against the Reds were shutouts, and when the Atlanta Braves came to town, they were shut out too, as Montreal pitching set a club record of 32 scoreless innings. Leading the way on offense was Gary Carter, who dominated the opposition, batting .444 with 3 homers and 13 RBIs in just 6 games. On the base paths, Tim Raines broke Gene Richards' rookie stolen base record of 56, an accomplishment all the more incredible in this shortened season. And on the hill, Jeff Reardon has emerged as Montreal's ace right-handed reliever, capping off a 5-game Expo winning streak with 3 1/3 shutout innings on Saturday, as the Expos hung tough in what is shaping up as a very tough Eastern Division race. So the Cardinals, a game and a half to the good of the Montreal Expos. Then you got the Mets and the Cubs, and they're maybe yes and maybe no in this short season. And Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, to me at least, just seem to be kind of going through the motions right now. But I really like the Expos. They have a lot of arms, and they have a lot of bats.
And you have to remember, Barry, that was a great ball club that finished only 1 game behind the World Series champions the last 2 years, Pittsburgh and the Phillies. Best 1-2 punch in baseball in Andre Dawson and Gary Carter. Gary was the player of the week last week, hitting .444. Andre Dawson hitting .330 in the second half with 6 homers, and both have great defensive skills. And those skills come into play because they've got a great pitching staff that has the fewest walks in baseball. And Jeff Reardon, acquired from the New York Mets, is doing a great job and is really their stopper in the bullpen now.
They also play really, really well at home.
Oh, I should say, backed by that crowd. Their crowds are up 20%. Can you imagine that in Montreal, up 20% with the weather they have up there? It's an incredible, enthusiastic crowd that anxiously wants a winner.
They've won 27-37 at home. But the Cardinals, you look at them statistically, and there really is nobody home. They have historically had 4 or 5 hitters in the top 10. This year, their best hitters hitting right around .285, and yet they win.
Well, there are more ways to score runs than batting averages. What they're doing this year, it seems, are bunching their hits. And they're bunching their hits to score more runs so Bruce Sutter can save it. And that's the name of their game this year. Bruce Sutter.
Well, that's the way the National League East steps up. Let's take a look at the National League West, and an outstanding race going on there. 4 teams, throw them up in the air. What comes down? Well, that's what's in first place in the National League West. With the best record in baseball, the Dodgers are rarely caught short. One reason why is Ron Cey, who leads the club at game-winning RBIs. On Friday, Cey went 4 for 4 as he hit his 10th homer of the year and helped the Dodgers to a 6-1 victory over the Cubs. The win moved the Dodgers back into first place, at least temporarily, in the National League West. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, Dallas Green had a slight difference of opinion with an umpire and found himself sitting out a 5-game suspension as a weekend series began down in Houston. Unflappable Bill Verdon looked on from the dugout as Craig Reynolds batted in the 10th inning of the first game and delivered the game-winning base hit. For the Astros, it was their first win over the Phillies in 7 tries this year. On Saturday, in the first game of a doubleheader, leadoff man Tony Scott, batting near .300 since joining the Astros, added to his average as he drove in a run with a double in a 6-1 Houston win. In the nightcap, the Houston fans were treated to a rarity by Alan Ashby. The Astros catcher registered Houston's 12th homer of the year at home. And the event was even more rare for Ashby himself. This solo shot was his first of the year, but it made the difference. Houston won it 2-1. In the finale on Sunday, Jose Cruz was the right man at the right time as he broke up another extra inning stalemate with this game winner. The Astros edged the Phillies 5-4. And with it, they managed to tag Sparky Lyle with his second loss in 3 days. Houston celebrated a 4-game sweep. At Candlestick Park, the omnipresent breeze was in the air as the Giants came up with the essentials to take 4 straight from the Pirates. With manager Frank Robinson keeping an ever-watchful eye, slugger Jack Clark came up in the 13th inning of Thursday's series opener. Clark's 11th homer meant a 5-4 win for the jubilant Giants. Ed Whitson 4-hit the Pirates on Friday, and the next day, Luis Tillon continued to pitch in hard luck as the Giants loaded the bases and took advantage of a good example of just why the Pirates have been having their problems lately. San Francisco went on to an 8-3 win, and on Sunday, Tom Griffin's shutout capped off a Giant weekend, their first series sweep of the year. So the Houstons are in first place in the National League West. You know, a lot is said about the psychological part of the game of baseball, and I would have to think a sweep of the Phillies by Houston has got to give them just a great emotional lift.
Shows you also how well they play in the Dome. Incredible. After the Phillies had swept them at home 6-0 at the Vet in Philadelphia, the Phillies go to the Astrodome and get swept by Houston. Excellent pitching on that ball club. It's going to be aided, I think, by the return of J.R. Richard from a psychological standpoint, if for nothing else.
It's a team that really seems to have benefited by the second season, and so too is the San Francisco Giants. They have won 9 out of 13 games. Frank Robinson has got that ball club playing some pretty good baseball, maybe even over their heads.
Well, it's a strange ball club. They're anything but jolly green Giants. As a matter of fact, they've had some experience on that ball club. The youngest regulars, 25 years old. And you hit it right on the head. Frank Robinson showed that he was a winner with the Cincinnati Reds and with the Baltimore Orioles. The guy's had incredible stats. He's one of the few guys that was a superstar and can put that into effect when he's trying to teach the game.
And that is an adjustment that really is easier said than done. Frank Robinson has made that move from superstar on the field, maybe to super manager. He's got the Giants playing just great baseball here in this second half. His career began with Cincinnati in 1956, and Frank Robinson immediately made his presence felt, belting 38 homers that year. Hitting for both average and power, Robinson thrived in Cincinnati, and in 1961 was named the National League's most valuable player. But after a contract dispute in 1965, Robinson was dealt to Baltimore in one of baseball's most ill-advised trades. With the Orioles in 1966, Robbie played like a man with something to prove, winning the batting, home run, and RBI titles, and becoming the first player to be named MVP in both leagues. Robinson led the Orioles to the World Series that year, and 3 more times as well. Like another ball player named Robinson, Frank was a pioneer. In 1975, he became player manager with the Cleveland Indians, and on opening day electrified the crowd by hitting a home run in his first at-bat. But the Indians hovered around 500, and 2 years later, Robinson was fired. But that wasn't the end. This year, Robbie took on the task of making winners out of the San Francisco Giants. As baseball's 4th greatest home run hitter and a certain Hall of Famer, Robinson has always been demanding. The early results with the Giants have been good, and we recently spoke with Frank about what lies ahead.
Playing is a job, managing is a job, and I think anytime you have an experience for the first time, you feel like things will work. Certain things will. Certain things won't, and you get in and you try them, you say, no, that doesn't work, let's throw that out, go back to the drawing board. But I think each time, each year that you're in a job, even though it's managing, you're learning. And I think the things that you learn, the pitfalls and things, you put it to use the next time around, you should be a better person for it.
Finally, it is no longer Frank Robinson, comma, baseball's first black manager. Now it seems to be Frank Robinson, comma, manager.
Well, that's the way it should be. It had to be reported first time around because that was history. Something was being done that never been done before. I could understand that. The second year it died down somewhat, and hopefully because of the way we were playing, I guess. And the third year was almost non-existent. And this time around it had to be reported somewhat. The first black manager that was hired and fired is coming back for a second chance. But what I appreciate is it hasn't been over-reported. And now they refer to me as, I think they should, the manager of the San Francisco Giants.
To give you an old racetrack adage, a mule is not going to win the Kentucky Derby, and that might be said here in baseball, too. If you haven't got the horses, you're not going to win the pennant.
Well, that's no doubt about it. You're only as good as the personnel that you have on the field. And I think if you have, one thing a manager can't do is if he has the personnel to win, then you should win with it. If you don't win, then I think that's when you're doing what I call a bad managing job. If you don't have the personnel, you can get them to play better. And that's what you do to strive to improve and get that ball club to play up to its potential. And, you know, if they do that, fine. If they don't, there's nothing you can really do about it. You can work them, you can practice with them, you can talk to them, whatever. But if they can't do it and don't do it on the field, there's not much you can do about it.
I can remember talking to you when you were the manager in Cleveland, and you're saying that you had control on the field of play, but once you got off, you really didn't have control. It seems to be a little bit different here.
Well, I think it's necessary to, and it is a